Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. Enterprise AI isn't just a tool, it's the heartbeat of smart organizations like yours, helping to reinvent work to deliver higher growth, more customers, and better experiences. Join us as we discover how AI-powered work orchestration and automation is making things better for everyone: customers, employees, shareholders, and most importantly, you. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Hairston. Welcome to Transform Now. My guest today is John Vaughn. He is the COO of BusinessOptix. They are a SaaS solution that provides total operational visibility of how processes, people, and technology interact. They're also a technology alliance partner of SS&C. So really glad to have you on. John, welcome. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Well, thank you very much, Brad. My career, I was actually thinking about this right before this call, 35 plus years in business process, whether it's in large BPO operations or in the kind of business process management technology space. It's where I am at home and literally love coming to work every day.
Fantastic. You're the process guy. I love it. Well, John, I'd love for you to start us off telling us all about BusinessOptix. I mean, what is the pain point that you guys are laser focused at helping companies solve with your offering?
So we've been around about 12 years, and we really have a very singular focus of helping companies run, grow, and transform confidently. And for us, performance really is linked to process. And so that is really where our focus lies. A process repository and insight hub that lets folks understand what's happening in their business and then confidently lay out a plan to transform and adapt to what's going on in their environment.
How are you different from, say, business process management applications, but also process mining, process modeling? I'm sure there's some overlap as well.
There is some overlap, but really as a repository, we sit at the center of all of those intelligent and hyperautomation initiatives that are going on inside your business. There are a lot of, in your ecosystem, there's a tapestry of technologies that are at play that you're using to drive that business forward, but most of them don't have the entire end-to-end process in them. And so as you try to look at how do you transform your business and move it forward, we give you that end-to-end view in that repository. And it also kind of becomes the single point of truth for the process of your business. Okay. And so that really is how we play into that overall ecosystem.
Okay, that makes sense. And I know prior to BusinessOptix, you spent a long time working with Chorus, which is SS&C's BPM platform. What is it that you uniquely makes you guys a nice complementary technology to Chorus?
Right. In a lot of ways, I'd like to think of our technology as a GPS for your business operations. Where do I want to go? What does that path look like? And then measurement along the way to make sure that I'm actually headed to my destination in the most efficient way possible. And so whether it be Chorus or it be RPA initiatives or other kinds of initiatives that are going on, how do I lay out that plan with all the different variables attached to it? A lot of those systems are focused on the technology element. We're really focused on that business outcome. How do we bring all of those different initiatives and lenses together? Because there are more lenses than just cost. There's a lens such as net promoter score or associate satisfaction, or what is my carbon footprint? And that's actually where the name BusinessOptix came from. It's how many lenses can we put on a decision to make sure that you're making the most comprehensive, informed decision you can about where you're headed next.
Okay. I know process simulation is one of the capabilities of BusinessOptix.
Yes.
Could you expand on that a little bit further?
Sure. In doing that, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the path that we like to take customers on in that maturity cycle. We kind of see 4 steps along the way. The first one is just documentation and diagramming. And a lot of our customers, this is an essential part of their business, whether they're in a highly regulated environment. If you do want to transform, you better know where you're starting from before you start heading out on that journey. A lot of folks are outsourcing their operations these days. How do I get my operation under control so I can hand it off to somebody and understand what those processes look like. And so that's really step one. Step two is what we call modeling. And that is taking those diagrams and putting metadata to those. Those are roles, responsibilities, systems, process performance, all of those different attributes. And once you've built that out, you can then take that third step, which is simulation. I can then say, if I want to put a RPA project in at this step, not only how will it affect this step, but how will it affect downstream parts of the process as well? So that you're really making sure that you improve that end-to-end process. You can run multiple scenarios against each other and compare them to understand which one is going to be the better outcome for you. And again, you can put all those lenses in that simulation to make sure you're not making a decision based on one variable when 3 or 4 other variables might take you down a road you don't want to go. The last step after simulation is round tripping. And for us, that is, then how do you go mine that data out of those systems in your operation, bring it back in, compare it to the golden process that you put in place before at diagramming stage, and think, how does it compare? Do I have steps that are happening that I didn't anticipate? Did I build steps that aren't happening at all? Or a process drift that I can't account for? And then how do I start to bring that back together?
Okay. To do all those things and to go through that journey you just described, what types of data are you feeding into BusinessOptix?
We really try to meet our customers wherever they are in their journey. We go into some customers and they have Word documents that they're like, I need to be able to pull these procedures out of here and build a process. And so we have tools that are able to do that. We have some clients that have Visio diagrams or other BPM platform models that they need to be able to bring all together in one place. And then we also support process mining and task mining. While we have our own process mining capability in it, we also support files from all of the other process mining vendors. And then we're able to bring all of those inputs together to create a picture of what that end-to-end process looks like. I can sometimes get on a little bit of a rant about process mining because it's not really process mining, it's system mining. It's whatever system you were taking that out of. And we all know the hidden factories that exist in an operation, whether it's the Access database that someone forgot even exists, emails, spreadsheets, whatever. But how do you grab all of those pieces and then bring that together? We then also offer a tool called Rapid Process Discovery, where you're able to send a survey to those people who actually live and breathe the process every day. And they tell us in a kind of sequential order in English what it is they do every day. We then compare all of those answers together and start to meld that. And we create a process model of what they've told us. And then we can compare that process to model to what the system is telling. And in that, we can start to stitch together what's really happening in an operation.
Interesting. So just to be clear, you can also take in log data from enterprise systems. That's not the only thing you're taking in, but that's one of many data feeds you can use to build that full scenario.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's interesting. So talk about how you enable companies to visualize and plan their transformation initiatives more effectively, if you would.
Right. We really do try to focus on the business outcome, not just the mapping or the diagramming of the process. And so we have a series of dashboards that let business leaders kind of plan their overall set of initiatives in business terms. So how am I changing the target operating model of my business, not just the processes? And so you can say, hey, I need to take $1 million of cost out of my overall operations over the next 2 years. Well, taking out $1 million may comprise 6 or 7 projects that affect 50 different processes. And in those 50 different processes, you may have 70 inflection points in the operation that need to be automated, improved, or changed in some way.
Right.
How do I know where all of those 70 inflection points are? How do I know where the projects are associated with them, the timelines associated with them, and how do I roll those up to see at a business level, am I on track to meet my overall business objectives? I mean, the fact of the matter is, companies today have one of about every technology ever sold. They don't need another technology project. The question is, how do I get the return on investment from what I've already put forward? And that's really our goal is to, like, you've got the technology. Let us be the GPS to show you where to make those bets, how to monitor what you're doing, and then go back and make sure that you actually got the return you thought you were going to get.
And I noticed in some of your material online that you use the terminology digital twin. quite a bit when describing, kind of how you're giving companies that ability to do that what if analysis and think about changes they can make and what have you. Is that a pretty common term that you use when you're talking to your clients about how they can leverage your platform?
It really depends on what market we're in, Brad. It's very interesting. Digital twin is highly accepted and used a lot in the UK and Europe.
Hmm.
We don't hear it used a lot in the US. And so if you peel the terms back and you look at what people are trying to achieve,
Hmm.
everybody's trying to achieve the same thing. It's just what the terminology is. And really for
Right.
us, we're focusing on the digital twin of an organization. A lot of people know
Yeah.
digital twin, whether it's related to manufacturing or product development or something like that.
Yeah.
Applying that same construct to an operation. Again, how do I model it? How do I
Hmm.
put metadata associated to it? How do I simulate it so I can change it correctly and then round trip it or monitor it to make sure that things are going well? And for us, that is the continuum of a digital twin and what we're trying to take our clients on.
Yeah, that makes sense. John, perhaps you could talk about just how your platform also helps companies with continuous improvement and adaptation. So once the initial transformation goals are achieved, going even further into that continuous improvement cycle.
A lot of times with our customers, we talk about big T transformation and little T transformation.
Hmm.
Big T transformations are those offices that, they have a center of excellence. They're coming from the C level. They're driving major change in the organization. But there are lots of small T ones that can actually make as much improvement as some of the big ones because they're led by the folks who are closest to the action and they know where those changes can be made. They know what levers to pull. And again, that repository gives everybody a single source of the truth to start marching off from. So it's no more people debating about, well, that process doesn't look like this. It looks like, no, this is our process. We can then go compare it and understand where they are.
Hmm.
And then they can start looking for those very specific points that they can start making changes on. And then with the simulation capability, they can try to make sure, hey, yes, I am fixing that one point, but did my end-to-end process again change? We do a lot of changes and the customers on the outside going, you guys might've made 8 changes and I still feel the same friction or I feel nothing different at all. And that's not the focus of the project. And I think by having that repository shared and used by everybody who's involved in the process, they're able to make those changes that can be, while they might be small, they're the ones I think do get felt most by the participants and the customers who are involved in it.
Right. John, do you have a story or two that you could share to kind of bring this to life? I mean, some recent clients that have made an investment in BusinessOptix and how it's really helping them overcome some of these challenges that you've talked about.
Absolutely. When I look at the use cases for our customers, there's kind of 3 major use cases.
Okay.
Process-led transformation, process-led operations, and then just plain process repository. If we look at process-led transformation, we see a lot of ERP projects that come through the platform and that are used to make those, very complex and comprehensive changes that are happening to a business. They're multiple years, millions of dollars. We have one customer who tried to do it with the normal approach, an RFP, send it out to all of the systems integrators, asked for quotes, came back a very, very large number. The CIO believed that they could do it smarter than just trying to do an RFP. And he said, let's go document all of our current state processes as it associates with our ERP platform, and then map what we want the to-be state of those processes to be. He then took those process diagrams and that became their RFP. They sat down with the systems integrators. They said, here are the things we want to change. Here's why we want to change it. Here's what we want it to look like. Now give us a quote with those very concrete specifications. And they literally got quotes half of what they got before. Not just half from a cost point of view, but significantly less time and less complexity because they weren't dragging along all of the accidental architecture that had happened in their previous ERP over many years. They were able to define, I don't want all of that stuff. This is the end state I want. I don't want to convert and then transform. I want to do it all as one project. And so not only were they able to kind of choose the right vendor for them, but they were able to execute the project. And then in that next step, they then did work instructions, standard operating procedures in those processes. And that became gospel for everybody who's working on the ERP platform.
Wow.
And I think that's a good example of how to do big T transformation to BAU And now you're leveraging all of that work to identify continuous process improvements down the road.
Right. I have a former colleague who advises companies on transformation, and he always talks about, really painting that clear picture of where you want to go and how companies struggle to do that. They're so mired in the day to day and the way, as you said, their architectures and their processes look today. So that story really resonates with me. That's a great example of how you can get companies past that.
Yeah.
That's great. Other stories to share. Love to hear those.
I think if we look at like process-led operations, a large bank in the UK that really wanted to accelerate their transformation journey, they realized that they had their artifacts, their content stored in a variety of systems, some accessible, some not. They were having a hard time aligning staff on the initiatives that were important and how to get all the resources going the right way. So they went out and they decided they were going to choose one platform to bring everything together. They had a very aggressive timeline. 90 days, we want everything converted and we want rolling, because they had a number of initiatives they wanted to build off of that. So in 90 days, we trained up 50 process champions on the platform. We built over 600 models, some of those migrated, some of those by hand into the platform. And then that laid the foundation for over 4,000 users in the platform who use it on a day-to-day basis to look at their business, understand how it runs, and then run those continuous process improvement projects. And the key is they were a financial services organization, highly regulated. So when you're making this transformation, risk is still important. It's the risk of continuing to look at your business and run it the right way, and the risk that transformation can cause some of those other issues to pop into play. And so how do we manage all of that through the process?
Yeah, that's great. Those are two really good examples that make it more tangible. So thank you for sharing those. Really appreciate that. So looking forward, John, how do you see your company and your platform evolving to support some of the emerging trends in automation and AI?
Yeah, we believe pretty strongly that a strong, mature process repository is almost foundational for AI. If you think about the language model of your business, the language model of your business are your processes. Where are they? How do you get to them? How do you understand them? And then how do you understand the performance of those processes? And so, we continue to develop and mature the repository and the functionality associated with that. We have a lot of clients that are integrating that into their overall ecosystem and AI strategy. For us, AI comes into play in really two very meaningful ways. One is, how do we help companies build their repositories faster? Right now, to build a lot of processes, you have to think process, you have to know BPMN, you have to understand metadata and all those other kinds of things. But most people don't think that way. They think about this is what I do. And so, we're putting chatbots and interactive dialogues onto the front of our platform to let people interact with it in English or their language of choice, to be able to build out those processes and then prompt them, okay, you've now built this process. Here are some of the other data that I might need. Can you give me that? Can you explain the roles or responsibilities, those kinds of things? And from that, we build a BPMN model with swim lanes and starts and stops and gateways and all those other kinds of things. But the person who built it didn't need to know any of that. Right. So hopefully that takes your author base, if you will, of processes and expands it greatly. The second thing is, how do we then take AI to look at what is in your repository and start to identify those areas that can improve? A lot of people talk about process mining. I'm going to go mine this process. And kind of one of their first kind of aha moments is, I mine this process and there's 127 variants of this single process. And 80% of it might be in the top 3 instances of it. But what's going on in the other 124? And how do I understand what of those things are going to cause me risk or bring up potential problems? And we think that's where AI can go through that and start to find patterns that would almost be impossible for somebody to find, and be able to pinpoint, hey, do you know that this process instance only happens on days where Sally isn't in the office? Or this only happens with this vendor? Being able to pull those things out so that you can start to understand how to address those kinds of things, which aren't necessarily macro process, but they are micro process. And that's usually where a lot of that risk is.
So have you guys already started integrating kind of Gen AI capabilities within BusinessOptix?
Yeah, we're prototyping it right now with select clients to understand kind of the use of it. Yeah. Anybody who's at that stage who says, I have it figured out, either really isn't at that stage or is maybe fibbing a little bit. But we're trying to find that happy place with customers to be able to add value without adding more headache or making sure that we're solving a problem versus just responding to a technology trend.
Got it. Well, John, I feel completely educated on BusinessOptix, and I know our listeners also will get value from this. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast just to share about your company and your solution. It's very, very compelling and certainly plays an important role in what companies are trying to do today with all the transformation and process re-engineering that virtually every company is going through. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Brad. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of enterprise AI, subscribe now. The future of work is here.